very strange that I have a large nose, and I'll tell you why.
I guess you're privileged to have a big nose then, because you don't live in harsh conditions.
The habanero one? Holy fuck, dude. Woo! You know, maybe I've been treating this bike as some sort of parkour bike when really it's just a...
I once came face to face with a wild rhinoceros. That was pretty crazy.
I got stung by a bee once.
Let's make this the best podcast we've ever made. Action.
And welcome back to another episode of Burning Bow Business. I don't like that one.
You haven't done that in a while.
And welcome back to another episode of Burning Boat Business.
What are we talking about?
Whoa, put me on the spot. How's it going? I got nothing.
Oh, no.
I got absolutely nothing. Again.
Okay.
I've been sick for the past 2 days, so I really had a lot of time to prep for this podcast.
Right.
And I didn't use any of it to prep. Instead, I watched, I think, 6 movies.
Well, we can talk about movies, because I've been watching movies as well.
That's good. And actually, I do have a list. I have 3 things on a list, and I've got a fun little life question.
Okay. Nice.
But yeah, let's talk about these movies.
Okay.
Let's first of all talk about, you know, we're not the most political on this podcast, right? We don't really
not at
express
all, really.
too many opinions.
Yeah, outside of, like, editing.
Yeah. And I want to put down an opinion.
Okay.
You know, the Oscars nominations came out
Last week? Yeah.
And I honestly thought, I was like, I don't give a shit about the Oscars. Who fucking cares?
I see. Okay, yeah. Let's set the scene.
Yeah.
Because I used to be an Oscar nerd.
Okay.
I was all about the Oscars. I would every year. Well, I mean, starting at like maybe in 2011 and 2012, I got really into movies.
Yeah.
And I would get really into the Oscars, and I would research which films were potentially going to get nominated for things, and I'd start watching them already before the nominations happened.
Right.
And then when they happened, I would make sure to have seen all of them, no matter what, before the Oscar night. And then I would either stay up and watch it, or I'd record it or something and then watch it the day after.
How often would your
predictions be correct?
Yeah.
Like, because I also took from like sources that I kind of trusted.
You kind of research it and stuff?
Yeah, I researched what people are saying about who would win. Okay. So I'd be like...
Who do you think this year?
Well, I haven't seen all of them.
Yeah.
But I think Roma is going to win Best Picture.
I thought that was really good. I think that's the only one I've seen.
But well, let me finish, because I think something along the way changed, and I was no longer very excited about the Oscars at all. I don't think I watched it last year, and the year before then, it was like a week later. I was like, oh yeah, that'd be fun to watch. And I found a streaming link for the show and watched it, but I hadn't seen like half the films. I didn't know really what was going on. Yeah. So I was kind of similar to what you were saying. Like, I don't really care that much anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'm flipping.
Right.
I thought I didn't care.
Well, same. That's what I'm getting to as well, because now I seem to be caring a lot.
Yeah, the nominations came out, and Black Panther was nominated, and
Black Panther.
Irate. I should say I've seen 2 of the Oscar-nominated movies.
Right, Roma and Black Panther.
Because Roma's on Netflix. Black Panther obviously was in movie theaters. Everything else has not been in movie theaters where I've been. So basically, Black Panther gets nominated. And I was just like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with that.
Well, I mean, I didn't think it was...
But why do I care?
We've talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've said, I didn't not like Black Panther, but I didn't like it either. But I don't really tend to like superhero films to begin with. I used to. Like, I really liked Iron Man when that came out and stuff like that. But then I feel like every Marvel film is kind of just the same thing.
You grew up a little.
Yeah. I guess.
Again, I think there's
it just seems like it's not a film that's like the best film of the year.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's a space for it.
Film. It might be important in one way or another. Right. But I don't think like filmically or artistically or...
It's such a sensitive topic,
it is
too,
sensitive.
Obviously, because it's the first superhero movie to kind of star an all-black cast. And I remember after watching it, I'll say this, me and Kevin were on a road trip, and we watched it with a couple of his friends.
Yeah.
And we came out and we were like, I really didn't like that. The same, I would say the same for Iron Man. I would say the same for Superman. I would say any superhero movie, I'm probably going to come out and be like, and it's not because I'm better than the movie or that I'm pretentious. It's like, it just doesn't float my boat, those kind of movies, right?
Yeah.
Come out and I say that. And then everyone starts berating. Because me and Kevin both said, we just didn't like the movie. We didn't think it was good. We were actually kind of bored. And they're like, is it because there's black people in it? Or because there's a female scientist? Or because, And I was like, no, whoa.
Yeah.
No, I just didn't like the movie.
Yeah.
It didn't surprise me. It didn't make me feel anything. It didn't, And again, I don't think a movie like that is necessarily trying to. And I fully support the idea of like blockbuster films becoming more diverse and whether that be racially or, more diverse, what would you say, sexually or like gender diverse?
Yeah.
I fully support all of that, but I can still dislike the film and dislike the franchise without being a racist bigot,
Yeah.
And I feel a little bit that it's just like, I don't understand why the Oscars would nominate that.
Because they seem to be quite picky with what they normally
very picky and very
pick.
snubby.
And it feels a little bit like they just
they're
picked
pandering
it not to have anyone say, "Oh, you didn't pick the most successful film of like all time."
Right. But
because
then came the question of like, well, what is the Oscars? Is it because obviously it's got to be subjective if we're talking about what is the best film. And then the question becomes, okay, well, if a film is the most popular, is it not in a weird way
the best?
The best?
For sure.
Although I would also argue that if you have a bunch of critics who we as a society have decided, those guys have really good taste.
They know what they're talking about.
They know what they're talking about. And we trust them to make the judgment for us. It's sort of like, well, where do you stand? Do you kind of take the road of like people who have spent their entire lives watching films and they do that as a living and blah, blah, blah? Or just sort of like generally, what do people like?
Yeah.
Which I just find interesting. The same way you go to a Michelin star restaurant. I mean, I'm sure there might be a lot of people who like kind of dislike the food, but
and would like some fast food place
say it's
more.
Yeah, exactly.
That tastes better to me.
Exactly.
Or I'd want that more than some fancy 12-course meal.
Right, which they might say, well, that's kind of disgusting. But then we say, well, but the Michelin people, they kind of, that's what they do. It's like if Michelin's telling you to start
I feel like the
Taco Bell, and you're like, wait a minute.
I feel like something like the Oscars should be about something that's something you haven't seen before, which then what I'm saying, well, it's like if it is the first superhero film to have an all black cast, then that is something that's a first and new.
Yeah.
And that should be.
But that doesn't mean it's good.
It's true.
It's
a tough
Again, I think
question.
You can split on it a little bit and you could say you support it, but you just don't like it. There is no I don't like this pressure that I
just feel weird
like
because normally I watch Oscar films. I'm like, wow, that was, for most of them, I'm like, that was an amazing movie.
Yeah, and it's a certain type
and,
of...
And other ones, I'm like, I didn't really like that, but I could see kind of why that it has a certain... Someone else is really going to like that.
Right.
And I could see why, it just doesn't necessarily get me super excited.
Yeah.
Or I didn't fully connect with something in it or something.
Right. Or I was saying like The Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a great film. Mm-hmm. Was, I guess you could call it a superhero movie to a certain extent. Could you?
Nah.
I don't know. In my head, it was like, there's that...
Sci-fi.
No, it's not sci-fi.
Adventure.
It's like
fantasy. Fantasy.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. I meant like sci-fi fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought that movie did a lot of, I don't know, it just had, and maybe it is me. Maybe I am the one who doesn't really know what he's talking about. And I have these weird, like, that's not a movie that should be allowed. And that is a movie that should be allowed. Who am I to say? But there is a feeling, there's a quality to the film that I definitely feel when I'm watching it that I'm like, yeah, that is in that Oscar realm.
Show me a scene in Black Panther that I couldn't say, well, that's very similar to this scene from this film.
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I feel like it's kind of predictable in its plot, visual effects wise. Yeah, it's amazing. But like, so are other superhero films.
Right, there was nothing new necessarily, or nothing that added besides the obvious
Yeah.
sort of social
Yeah.
thing, which is super important as well. But I think first and foremost, it needs to be a good film.
Yeah. I think maybe that's where because I think a lot of people are kind of conflicted about it, and a lot of people are saying, why is Black Panther nominated for an Oscar?
Right.
It doesn't.
I haven't been online at all, but
Right.
what are the people
I
saying?
barely have as well. But when we saw which films were nominated, we quickly like looked up.
Oh, those
on
comments,
YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah, there were so many comments that were like, huh?
It is just
Like,
bizarre, and it's
an
also
most overrated film of all time, stuff like that.
yeah. And a little bit to go to dig into the Oscars here a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, they had that whole problem with the fuck is this?
What's going on?
Who set this up?
I did.
You're fired.
Well, why did you have to adjust it?
Huh? All loose. All loosey goosey.
Because you're adjusting it.
Yeah. They the Oscars. Oh right, they had the whole thing with Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
You know, which we can kind of go back and explain. But
Well, he was asked to host the Oscars.
correct.
And accepted. Was super excited about it.
Yeah.
And then some people dug up some tweets from like 10 years ago where he made some
Homophobic
comments, some jokes
Yeah.
that he had apologized for when they came out.
Right.
He's got a lot of heat for it.
Right.
It was, I think, taken the wrong way,
Yeah.
which is often the case when it comes to comedy.
Yeah.
And then apologized for it again now after it was brought up again,
Yeah.
resurfaced. People are saying he shouldn't be allowed to host the Oscars.
But he first refused because he said, I'd rather step down from the Oscars because he thought it would overshadow the whole thing.
I think this is after he had already said again, like, look, I'm still sorry for those things. That's not how I meant it. And
I don't know if
I
he
was
did.
immature back then anyways.
Yeah, he
And
definitely said that,
So he
but
said that. I think he said that
don't
again.
think he
And
was-
then it was like people were asking for even more. And that's when
You think?
I think that's what I have heard from his various talk show appearances.
Okay.
He's like, I'm done apologizing. I've done it twice now.
Regardless, the point to me is that, like, the Oscars fucking knows. Obviously, you vet the person who you're going to have host the Oscars. So the thing that frustrates me with all of this stuff, where it's like, you know, people have stuff dug up on them, or like certain things come out, and then suddenly the studios say, well, we don't want to work with this director anymore.
Right, because they said to him, you can't host the Oscars now. Sorry, we have to fire you.
Or you have to apologize. The way I read it, they said you have to apologize publicly or you can't host the Oscars. And he just said, I'm not going to host the Oscars, and then apologized afterwards.
Right.
Sort of saying, you guys don't tell me when to apologize. I've already apologized.
Well,
for
that
this,
actually makes
but I
more
will step
sense
down
then.
and then I'll
Right.
apologize. Which I think is kind of like the most badass move you could do at that point.
All right, well, it means you're serious.
Yeah, but
You're not just doing it to get the job.
that's the thing. And it's a genuine
Yeah.
sort of thing that comes
I
across.
was like, you don't need to apologize then.
And what is
Especially once
disingenuous
you've already done
is
it.
on the part of the Academy, I think.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like, you fucking know. Obviously, you vetted the guy. Obviously, you have people who kind of dig into the past
Yeah.
and make sure this doesn't happen, which means, from my perspective, I can only assume you guys already knew that. And it's only when
Other
people
people start-
show outrage
Yeah.
that they go, oh shit, people are outraged about this. We need to do something. It's not an internal sort of moral compass that they have. That
They're
they
just
say,
looking at what's
this
going
is how
on.
we believe this, and we apply it to everyone the same way.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we just apply it when it makes sense to apply it.
I
And
blow
then
at the
it's
wind
like,
a little bit.
Fuck you guys. And not just them, but it's like in general, you see this happen all the time with big companies where
Yeah.
they just kind of pick their morals whenever the internet gets outraged,
Yeah.
right? In this outrage culture, which is also the thing we can talk about. It's just like this
Well,
sick
it's
desire
one
for people
thing.
to-
It's one thing saying something or maybe supporting someone, even though you knew something about them that they did in the past, and then realizing upon looking at what other people are actually, how could you be supporting this person, and then reevaluating your own judgment and changing your mind based off of that.
right.
It just seems like it's happening too often for it to be something like, oh, wait, we were wrong. It just seems like they're waiting for what people want and then doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's trying to, it's like, have some balls and stand up for the person that you pick and say, this was fucking 10 years ago. Like, the
They're
fact,
clearly not a homophobic person.
right. Or talk to him and then be like, hey, what's the situation with this? We really didn't know, which I don't believe. But like, okay, we really didn't know.
Yeah.
He can explain himself.
Yeah.
And yes, you can accept that people change over the course of 10 years, and he like said it beautifully. I saw this little clip on Ellen before I stopped watching YouTube again. And I just thought he handled it so well. And I was like,
he did.
You guys could have avoided this whole mess if you didn't just have this like, we need to do it now. We need to, oh, God, the internet is reacting. We need to come out with a press junket now and do all these things. And it's like, just think about it. Like, I don't know.
I think there's so much
maybe there
power
is no person in
people.
Charge. Maybe it's this bureaucratic sort of like, everyone's blaming each other a little bit and nobody.
Well, don't we live in a time when people being outraged, regardless of how valid they are in their outrage, that it can really damage whoever it is they're targeting?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, are they really at fault? I mean, I'm just thinking about this as we're talking.
The people who are outraged?
No, like the Academy. Aren't they kind of justified to an extent in their reaction of kind of like immediately jumping to something because they're scared of what could happen to them if they don't, because of how serious some of these
but I think it
allegations
just gives more power to this outrage culture that at some point we have to say it's good that all this stuff is coming out, but there's also a very, maybe it's not a clear line, but there is a line at which it's just like the fact that we can't have any empathy or any tolerance for someone making a mistake 10 years ago that they have apologized for. Yeah. I'm not talking specifically about Kevin Hart now, but it's also like just in general. Yeah. And obviously some things you would say are unforgivable and are so far out there that they're, but I think we can try to be a little bit more tolerant and not see celebrities as these like, they can't do anything wrong, and as soon as they do something wrong, we all gang up on them and say, fuck you, I don't like you, Yeah. And it's like, no, they're human too, and they made mistakes, and 10 years ago, it probably wasn't as big a deal to make a homophobic joke, right? That now you could say, well, now I understand it more and everything, and I've changed, and I don't make those jokes anymore, and I don't find that funny anymore.
Yeah, so even if you don't mean it, I understand that that's not sensitive enough.
Yeah.
It's not okay to make that joke.
Ever.
Right.
You should have known.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on. I mean, if you took me 10 years ago and heard the shit, if you heard the shit I say now off the podcast, my career would be ruined 20 times over. You know? There is like this, like, who are these perfect humans that only say perfect things and are willing to call out anybody who says one wrong thing, And it's like,
I think there's a reason why we don't really talk about stuff like this on the podcast because of a fear of just kind of saying something a little bit wrong,
right?
Or something you don't necessarily mean, it came out the wrong way,
right? Or how many
even
times
exploring ideas that you don't fully, you haven't I haven't made up my mind about what I think about this issue, And so talking about it with someone else, you start to realize flaws in your own thinking and your own judgment, which takes time.
It does,
and if you're doing it when a lot of people are listening, it's like that they can hold you to that forever, even if you're like, well, hang on, I didn't really mean that at all. I'm just kind of trying to figure out what I think about this.
And we've talked about how that is an annoying trait everywhere. Like if you have family members that just can't let go of certain things about you, and you're like, I'm trying to change that, or I have changed, and it's very hard for people to accept that maybe, people do change over the course of time. It's a very frustrating thing to have constantly sort of this like, like this idea that you just can't change or grow as a person, that you're always, if you said something, I'm going to hold you to what you said. Even if you say, I was wrong, like how many
Even
times,
if you say for good reason, I've changed my mind because of this, this, and this.
Right, or I just said it.
And I wasn't thinking straight,
Yeah, or like, I mean, I can think of countless times where I've said something to you, and then 2 days later I come back and I'm like, can we just talk about this again? Because I've actually thought about this a lot. Yeah. And this is actually what I think about it.
Speaking it makes you realize sometimes how ridiculous some of the things you've said are.
100%.
And it's like, I didn't realize that was weird, or that didn't make sense, or I was saying that without having thought about it.
Or you say a joke and you say it and you immediately realize, well, that was way too far. I took that way too far. But I think what I appreciate what we have is that it is basically, I feel like in our space, we can say whatever.
Yeah.
And we're both good at recognizing very quickly, or a day later or 2 days later, like, oh, that was pretty fucked up. But it's a good space to practice things in, so that when I go to the real world, I don't say those things to people and look like
Yeah.
a total, and it's because like, I mean, you say things of course you say things that you mean, but I also think you say things for a host of other reasons, just to get a reaction out of somebody, just to make somebody laugh, just to and if you attributed meaning to those things, then you're suddenly changing the intention of what I'm saying. And
Well,
you're
that's a
almost
whole nother subject, right?
offending
Like,
yourself in a roundabout way by changing my intention.
yeah, when you are telling someone else what their intention was when they said that,
Yeah.
and they're saying, no, that wasn't my intention.
Yeah.
I meant it like this. And you're saying, no.
Yeah. But you said.
And that's how I'm interpreting
that's not
it.
what I
So
meant.
that's how it is.
Yeah.
That's a little dangerous.
It's dangerous, and it's frustrating, and it gives you the feeling that people are trying to trap you or trying to, it's almost this like negative. And I wonder, like, especially like I've never been on Twitter. I feel like it's a total war zone out there, and it's like it must be such a negative mindset just to constantly be policing everybody and writing this, like, what did I just see? We might have to cut this out because I have not thought about this at all.
Here's one of those examples.
Let's
Let's see if it's in.
So the guy who was the CEO of Starbucks decided to tweet that he was seriously considering a run for president in 2020 as a centrist, right?
What's that?
Centrist, well, you got the left, the right, and you got the center.
Okay.
And America right now is very split between the left and the right.
Right.
And he got bombarded by people saying, if you run as a centrist, you're going to take half the votes away from the Democrat, which let's say it's going to be Hillary Clinton or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to take half the votes away from her because a lot of liberals are now leaning a little bit more towards the center.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, you're going to make Trump be reelected president. And then people started attacking him like, I'm going to fucking boycott Starbucks. I'm not giving a single penny to Starbucks to support a person who's going to get Trump his second, And I was like, is that, like, how do we not see the sort of unfairness of that to a certain extent, or that people are pissed off at him for trying to fix a system where we only have two options at the moment and say, well, let me try to create a third.
Yeah.
For obviously there's a group of people who would be interested in that. I'm not saying I am or I'm not, but that you would then attribute him doing that to somehow he's supporting Trump and getting his next run for president, and then you're pissed off at him. And
Yeah, it seems like
it's just this gut reaction to like, fuck you. And then everybody started saying that. And everybody's saying like, no, fuck you, fuck you. It's on the BBC News. Just like, I don't like these gut reactions. I don't know.
They could definitely be wrong. I think what you initially feel can often be fueled by something other than what you actually feel about the subject matter. It can often be something that comes from a different place of wanting to vent frustration or be defensive, or like when something is a gut reaction, it's typically something that feels like an emotional reaction to it.
Right.
It's something you immediately feel.
Right.
And so it can be,
but
sometimes it can be.
They might be right. They might be right that it does take votes away from.
Yeah.
Right. But then it's like, what? So he's just not supposed to run?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know. Wish we had someone qualified to talk about this. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good place to wrap up with the Oscars. Just the idea that like,
there's a lot of great films. I've watched almost all of them now. The Best Picture nominees. There's a lot of really good films in there.
Yeah.
I watched one of my favorite films of all time, like the other day.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing thing when that happens, especially when you're.
Oh, you don't want to say what it
when
is?
you love film like I do. Yeah, I watched A Star Is Born, directed by Bradley Cooper, starring Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper.
Good old Bradley.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like a Bradley Cooper fan or anything. I did not like him.
Yeah.
He was just Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of films of his.
Yeah.
And oh my God, it's so good. So good.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah.
I was not excited to watch it until you kind of found out about it, and now I'm very excited to watch it.
But there have been situations before where I've been very excited about something. Not to this level.
Yeah.
Where then you've watched it and it's not been your thing.
Yeah, like what?
We do have different taste. Well, I wasn't like a super fan of this, but I did like it when I was watching it, and you just didn't like it at all, which was the Netflix documentary show, Medal of Honor.
Medal of Honor. Oh yeah.
But the weird thing is that that's really not my thing either. I think I was taken by surprise, and I was in the right mindset to be thinking about a very narrow aspect of that whole show that I really just liked at the time.
Yeah, I think mindset has so much to do with whether you like something or not.
Yeah, well, the way you
more
go
and more.
into it
Yeah.
and like what you're expecting a lot.
Yeah.
So that was another thing about Black Panther. It's like, this is the most amazing movie of the year, at least, is what I'm being told. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
like let's watch it.
Dude, people watched it multiple times in the
Yeah,
theater.
and then you go into it thinking it's going to be the most amazing thing you've ever seen, and it's not. It's hard to not be disappointed.
Right. Which is, again,
Start
we'll
the
say,
camera
of
again.
course it's subjective. Oscar's done. Get out of here.
Cross it off.
I'm going to watch them, though. But you know what the thing, because I used to do the thing, too, where I'd watch it like the next day.
Watch what the
The
next day?
Oscars,
Oh yeah,
right? And I
to
did
get
it
very-
like once.
it starts to get hard to not know what happens when you watch the next day.
Well, that, and when it's not live, I don't give a shit about
All the other
costume
stuff.
design. I just want to get to the end of the thing.
Well, when you've watched all the films, you do.
You do?
Yeah,
I see.
because yeah, you do.
Okay.
Honestly, it's an entertaining show. It's fun to see celebrities who you think you know
Yeah.
because you've seen some of their films.
Yeah.
Be themselves, but
not.
weird versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And be like, I didn't know so and so was like extremely socially awkward, and like it's like cringeworthy to watch
Oh.
them on stage, or this other person. It's just fun. I don't know. There's
I
nothing-
could see it being fun maybe with people. Like if we watched it together, I think that was the thing. I could like watch it by myself and I'd be like, who the fuck cares?
Right.
Just
Well, maybe
it's
we
like
should watch it together.
famous people patting each other on the back.
Yeah.
Good job, buddy. No, you. Good job.
But it's like when you've seen some of the films and you've liked some of them, you can kind of like see past all that stuff.
Yeah. But I also I told you, the little rebel inside of me loves that
The Little Rebel.
YouTube.
That's the name of this episode.
The YouTube clip of the guys who created South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, go on the red carpet, tripping on acid in dresses and interviewing. And they were saying that they went out because they first were going to wear like chicken costumes or like duck costumes. And then they were like, no, they're just going to kick us out. Like, no problem. And they said, but if we're wearing what other people are wearing, they can't kick us out. And they made a pact that like whenever someone would ask them about the dresses, they would never acknowledge it. They would just be like, it's just such a, like, why are you wearing that dress? What's up with the dress? They'd just be like, it's just such a wonderful night. Just such a beautiful, wonderful, special night for everyone involved. And it's just such a wonderful night. And then in the interview, they're just like giving a total like fuck you to the Oscars. I think I've got a little bit of that inside of me as well, of this like anti what's established. But I think also the older I'm getting, the little bit further away I'm getting.
It has
from
to
that.
be for reasons, you know? It's like
Well, I
there
think
has to be a
the main
good reason
reason-
why you don't support something that's popular or that
I think it's just hard for me
already is.
Yeah, but it's just the idea that like it's like I think we can accept that it's fun, but the meaning of it is it's like, oh, this is the best painting out of these 5 paintings, and it just feels a little bit like, okay,
Yeah, well,
That's a
awards
good-
in
that's an interesting-
general
that's
when it
what I'm
comes to
saying.
art is
Yeah.
a little
so you should
weird.
find your valid. You should think. I would hope that if I ever made a film that was nominated, that wouldn't be the thing that takes. I would already have that feeling of, I did what I wanted to do. I'm proud of the film. Blah blah blah. And then the Oscars would be a cherry on top to sort of like validate in a way what you've been doing. But you should be able to validate it yourself to a certain extent.
It's hard though, doesn't
You know,
it?
because you look at the Oscars from previous years, and it is like, it's like, is chocolate better or is vanilla better? You know, sometimes it's like these were
Yeah.
all amazing films. There's like 5 amazing films that year, and you're like, okay, well, it just seems like they just picked one.
Yeah. Well, they have to.
Well, of course. But then you can also recognize that it's like it's a little bit meaningless to a certain extent. Because it was just hard to quantify. Well, how is that better? You know, did that one just make more sense that year because of certain cultural things that happened, or did that one, you know?
I think it just means slightly more people picked that one, which means something to it.
No, well, what I'm saying is it doesn't, because then Black Panther comes into the mix, and you're like, okay, well, now it really doesn't.
Yeah. But that was just, I mean, there's still a difference between nominations and what actually wins.
So if Black Panther wins,
Black Panther wins over the films that it's running alongside of.
Yeah.
I will not, I just don't know if I know. I'll think I won't know anything about what I thought I knew a lot about.
Yeah. Yeah. And that I also want to qualify that for myself, that like when I'm saying it shouldn't validate you, that's the person I would like to be.
Yeah.
Who I am,
Yeah.
it would mean a lot to me right now just to win any festival.
Yeah.
Even if it's the fucking AMAPRO student film festival or something, you know, I'd be like, thank you so much. I've got so many people to thank. You know, but it's like the image of what I think you should care about and should not care about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Cool. Let's start with. Yeah, we should just clear up from last week. We had a little bit of discussion on stress,
All right.
and
We had like a couple of unknowns coming up. We
Yeah.
weren't quite sure what we were going to be doing.
we hadn't booked any gigs for this year.
Yeah.
We didn't have the
Well, except for the ones we already are doing.
right,
Any ones following that.
which weren't. I mean, they just wouldn't sustain us for that long.
Right.
So there was just a gap of like, what are we gonna do? We can't talk about it too much, but
We're doing stuff.
we're doing stuff.
Stuff went good.
Stuff has fallen, you know, not into our laps, but you know, we've plucked them and put them in our laps, and
Yes.
I think that sort of issue has been resolved.
A lot of the effort we put in last year is paying
Yeah.
off.
the fruits of our labor
Yes.
falling into our laps. No, we're picking the fruits of the plants that we planted, and we're putting them in our laps.
Exactly.
But I just wanted to talk quickly about. So we talked to one of our clients, and they kind of gave us they were very nice to us, and they gave us some compliments.
They were very,
you know,
very full of the compliments.
and I don't know
Which
how
took
to
me a
take
little.
a
It
compliment.
took me a little off guard.
Yeah,
To be
how
honest.
do you take a compliment graciously?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there a good way?
I felt like I was so. Yeah, I just like.
I just kept on saying, "That's very nice."
Yeah, thank you.
That's very
Thank you so
nice.
much.
You know, it makes me so uncomfortable. I am like, if you say anything complimentary to me, I just shut down. I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
I don't think that's true.
But
I think
why
it's
is
all
that?
about like. All right, so we're editing Boris and Johan.
Yeah.
You're editing a scene that
Yeah.
I haven't seen at all.
Yeah.
And you show it to me, and I'm like, holy shit, that's really good.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah,
Okay.
it is.
Yeah.
It is good.
That is different.
Like that makes you feel good.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
on board.
Yeah.
And I can kind of say that multiple times
Yeah.
before you'd be like, all right, dude, stop. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. It's good.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I think, because it's something we did a long time ago, and yeah, I don't want to say we already know it's good, but we definitely liked what we made.
Yeah.
And it maybe feels a little bit like, I don't know, like we didn't need a lot of compliments. That it feels like uncomfortable to have someone be so nice to you about something. You're like, well, I mean, yeah, we already did that. I don't feel.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel connected to it right now. That's coming out wrong, completely wrong.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean. Rewind.
I wonder if the thing is where if you're editing something or I'm editing something, it's not really. I mean, saying it's good to me like isn't a compliment.
No, saying like,
If you were
holy
like,
fuck, that's good.
if you went to someone else and were like, you know, Taylor, he's one of the best editors that I know, I would literally shrivel in my seat and be like, oh yeah, oh
If you were there as well.
okay, yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's.
You know, and it's like, why can't? Well, what is that thing that you can't take a
I
compliment?
don't know.
Or someone's like, Taylor, you're really good at that. I'm like, okay. Not that I get compliments all the time. Maybe that's one of the things, but it's just like this weird, like I don't know how to respond. It's almost like a power play. Like if you compliment somebody, there's nothing
You
they
gotta
can
compliment
say
them back.
Yeah, you almost have. You're almost forced to.
Like, oh no, yeah, we put the video together, but like
You guys
were the
are
ones
handsome.
who allowed us to do it.
Just random compliments. Yeah, but you look really fit today. So did you work out? I just don't know.
It's very flattering.
Yeah, it's flat. Yeah.
It was.
It was.
I felt myself
you like blush.
getting
You're
like
I'm
sweaty.
blushing.
Yeah, it was like, but it's also like it wasn't like, guys, what you're doing is really great. We love what you're doing. Like, let's do more.
Yeah.
It was like multiple things.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but we.
Yeah, but
okay.
we get it.
That's very nice. Thank you. Anyway,
I wonder if we sound ungrateful now.
Huh?
I wonder if we sound ungrateful now.
No, it's not ungrateful because it's like
It did actually, because it meant a lot.
It does.
Afterwards,
that's
I was like,
what I'm
wow.
trying to get
Okay,
at.
I felt.
It's very nice of people to do that when it's
Yeah.
genuine, when it comes across as genuine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just I wish I knew
In the moment.
how to react in the moment and have a genuine reaction back rather than just like, well, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know if there's an answer.
Well, it doesn't make you uncomfortable when Phoebe's like, oh, you look really handsome today.
I don't, that doesn't happen that often.
Because I've had that with girlfriends where I'm like, just don't say that. Not in a mean way. I'm just like, it makes me really uncomfortable to hear that.
If maybe said something nice about the way I look, I'd be like, oh, thanks. I'd feel good. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be weird. I don't think.
Okay. So that's just me. Okay.
No, but she will. You know what she will do?
What?
Sometimes, which you did not the other day, but like, so I don't sing at all.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes we'll be listening to music, and I'll find myself like, kind of singing along.
Yeah.
If that's not really, even just like little parts, and then she'll be like, "Oh, that was really good." I'm like, "Yeah, but you're joking." But she like insists on that she's not joking, but I'm convinced that it's part of this, like she is joking and it's funny to pretend like she's not, and it's become like this thing. Like whenever I'll say anything, she'll be like, oh, good job.
Or
like,
is it that you're so shitty at singing that when you do hit a right note, it's almost like a miracle?
Maybe.
And it has to be
But it makes me
addressed.
feel so awkward and uncomfortable.
That's what I'm talking about. No, but maybe not, because you're talking about
Because then you
talking
did
about
it. And you're like, oh, that actually sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
I was like, it's like,
you did. What were you saying? Oh, it was the sleigh bell. Sleigh bells are ringing. We did this like Christmas commercial thing. You nailed it, and I think that's the thing. It's just appreciating a moment where it's like, oh, you just nailed all the notes in that little riff.
That was the. Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. If anyone has any answers to that. Just gracious. What would a gracious person? What would cool person?
Because if I said, "Oh, thanks," it's almost like I'm also acknowledging that, or that I also thought that before you said it,
right?
Or is that?
It's sort of like, let's say you showed a feature film somewhere, and someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, hey mate, like really enjoyed the film. It was really good." You're like, "Thanks." Like, it was really like it's my favorite film that I've ever. Like, oh, thank you so much. No. Like, you do not understand how much like that meant to me. That scene with the blah blah blah, and it's like there is something just like, oh,
ooh, yeah.
You know, even though you enjoy it, obviously,
that's an interesting one.
What you want to hear,
because that is kind of why we make films, is to have other people watch them and feel something.
100%. And anybody who says they don't care about that, well, then go make a film and not show it to anybody.
That'd be
badass. Maybe somebody has done that.
Ooh, what the fuck is the point of doing that?
I guess if they literally just did it for themselves.
I mean, that's part of it, but not the only part.
No.
There's no way.
Could you imagine?
Well, we were kind of talking about this the other day. It's like, well, if you're able to do something without anyone else knowing about it,
Yeah.
and not telling anyone,
Yeah.
well, that kind of indicates that, okay, that is something you actually want to do. You're not just doing it for validation or
Right.
to be able to tell people you did it.
Right.
It's
But it's
like,
a
what
hard
did you
thing to
say? You
separate.
said like, has anyone ever gone skydiving without like
There was a
telling someone about it?
There's a joke video on, I forget who did it, on YouTube, where it's like the first person to run a marathon and not tell anyone about it.
Right, it was a marathon.
Right. And I think that's just such an interesting concept, because it's not so simple as to say, well, you tell other people because you care so much about, it's obviously a social aspect to it, and like more things than just trying to impress people.
Yeah.
But then there is something very, I don't even know what the word is, very satisfying about doing something that's not bad or shameful, that's good,
Yeah.
that you don't tell anybody about. You're trying to force it to be something that's like,
Yeah.
why would you need to tell people that you're doing this thing? It's sort of like going to the gym. It's like the first thing you'll hear from a person who just went to the gym is like, how's it going? Oh yeah, I just went to the gym. I just worked out. Like, you have that need to let somebody know that you just did that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's very interesting. And to exercise certain things. So I found there's very little things that I'll do. There definitely are some things. And I even have the opposite. I have things where I'm like, well, I should tell somebody about it. Otherwise, it's going to become something shameful. And like, I'm trying to hide it,
Like
if
what?
I don't tell anybody. I think I felt the need, like when I went to Christiania here,
Yeah.
right? I was like, I don't want to tell you, because I don't like people who are like, oh, I'm going to go smoke some of the doob.
Uh-huh.
Look how I smoked 3 joints last night, bro. Like, look how cool I am.
Uh-huh.
But in my head, I was more like, I need to say it so that it's not a weird thing if you ever find out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's certain things that I'm like, okay, I gotta say it, or I don't know, just certain things like that, or like embarrassing moments in your past that you're like, well, I'd rather just say them and not have them be this hidden thing. But then to flip it and be like, okay, something that's good, that if you found out about, you'd be like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
But never to have said it.
I think it's actually a good exercise, even if it's just a mental one.
Yeah.
Like, would I do this
That's the question.
if I couldn't tell anyone about
Yeah.
it? And if the answer is yes, then you have to. Like, that is something you need to do.
Right.
Because you see the good of it and
Right.
what it'll do for you.
Right.
And just you.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
donate money to a charity without telling anyone about
It would
it.
be crazy.
That means you really care about the
Yeah,
charity. And you're
100%.
you get enough pleasure out of donating that money knowing how it will be used.
Right.
Not on how other people see you.
Exactly.
It's an anonymous donation that you don't tell anyone about.
Yeah. Would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good little challenge.
I think so.
I mean, that's just one example, but something
Because it does help you separate.
you
I think
could-
it can be hard
yeah.
to figure out
maybe.
why do I do the
Yeah.
things I do, and what things am I doing without me even knowing,
Yeah.
just to sort of impress certain people
Mhm.
that I care about. Not that that's a bad thing necessarily either, but just the kind of realizing like, oh yeah, I do just do that for,
It's interesting. Like, if you're someone who really doesn't like drinking, you drink, but you don't choose to when you don't really have to.
Yeah.
If you were somehow able to go to a party where no one knew what anyone else was drinking,
Right.
would you still drink an alcoholic drink,
Right.
or vice versa, or whatever?
Right.
Like, that's an interesting way of looking at a lot of things that you do in your life. Like, would I still do the thing that I'm doing if no one knew about it?
Right.
I mean, sometimes there's plenty of things that it's like a good enough reason that you're doing it because you want other people to also see you do it. Like when you're trying to inspire someone, or even just like it's not always a bad thing, because to pretend like we don't care about what other people think is insane.
No.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
But it's like, if that's the main reason, and you like wouldn't touch that stuff if no one knew about it.
Right.
It's like, well, then why are you doing it?
Yeah. And that person who has the need to tell you everything, every little thing that they do.
Mm.
And you're like, I get it to a certain like there is something to be said about people who do keep things a little bit closer to the vest, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That I find very alluring, mysterious, attractive.
Because it means they're doing it not to impress you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is genuine. You know, then there's something more to the story.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's intriguing.
Exactly. Last thing, we were talking about your little bun in the oven, your little muffin in the oven, your little male muffin. And you said there's 15 weeks left until...
Yeah, Phoebe's doing 15 weeks.
Yeah.
It used to be like in the 40s.
Right.
Like 40 weeks from now.
Right.
Which is like, oh, that's in a while.
Yeah.
Like that, I can't even really quantify that in my head.
It's just...
15 weeks, that's like, I can understand what that means.
15 weeks is what, 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 3 months, 1 week? No. 3 months, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just find it fascinating. Like, obviously, you know, people say, and we're not even old yet, but the older you get, the quicker time sort of goes.
Yeah. Have we talked about this on the podcast before?
Have we?
If we have, I apologize because I'm about to go down this route of time.
Okay. It's just crazy to me because I watched this thing yesterday, this TV show, Ugly Delicious, and he says he opened up his first restaurant in 2004. In my head, I was like, 2004? Like, that's not that long ago. I was like, wait, that was 15 years ago. That was fucking 15 years ago. And I was like, whoa. And they had like footage of him back then. And then I went into his mind and I was like, God, to him, that must feel like...
Right, you would have been in fourth grade in 2004.
Like that, you know? Like just 15 years kind of goes by like that. And I was like, God damn, time goes fast. And
Here's the thing.
We've almost been in Denmark for half a year.
Over half
Half a year.
Yeah, we're on like approaching like 8 months.
It's crazy.
I think
It's almost
if not more.
Well, what really, I was like, it's gonna have been a year in March from when I really started working on Boris and Johan, in terms of like pre-production, like moving to New York and starting everything.
Yeah,
I was like, that feels like 5 weeks ago.
Depends on what you think about.
Yeah,
it's not everything.
No, I feel like the end of the film, and then it's like, yeah, it's been like, 5 weeks is exaggeration, but like I would be like, it's been like 4 months.
It's not long ago.
No, not that long ago.
Then you think about everything we've done in Copenhagen.
Oh my
And then
God.
it starts to feel like a long time ago. But here's the like science behind why
Yeah.
time feels like it speeds up.
What, because of relative?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a child, when you're 10 years old,
Yeah.
10 years of your life is your whole life.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
100% of everything you've ever experienced. 10
Yeah.
years is an insane amount of time.
Yeah.
Then when you're 20, 10 years is half of your life.
Yeah.
So when you think about the last 10 years, you can kind of understand that as half of the time you've been alive.
Yeah.
And the older you get, the smaller that percentage gets.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about 10 years when you're 80, it feels like the past 10 years feel like a tiny part of your life, whereas
Yeah.
the first 10 years of your life feels like half of your life.
Yeah.
Because that's what occupied all of your memory at that time when you were 10.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that the older you get, the more it feels like time speeds up because you have more memory.
But what's weird is in the moment,
Yeah.
it feels forever. A day feels so long sometimes. Like when we were working on Boris and Johan, 3 days in, I was like, have we been working on this for like 4 weeks? It felt like
Dude,
forever.
it's so
Those
different.
20 days, I think I lived a lifetime in those 20 days. And then you look back at it, and in hindsight, everything seems so short.
Yeah.
But in the middle of it, you're like, this will never end. I will never be done with the production of this movie. This will literally never... I cannot imagine the day that it ends. And then
It all
4
comes
weeks later,
down
you
to
look
mindset.
back and you're like, oh, it just passed like that.
It's when you're focused on tiny little minute details of
Yeah.
a scene, like fading 2 frames at the end of this shot
Yeah.
so that it feeds nicely into the next shot.
Yeah.
And you're so focused on the now
Yeah.
that there is nothing else.
Yeah.
That's all that is
Yeah.
in that moment. But then in the weekend when you're thinking about, oh, we edited for the past week, it's like, oh, a lot happened. You can kind of understand it better,
yeah.
and it feels like it happened very quickly.
Super quickly.
Yeah. I think like your whole life is going to be like
It's
that.
very bizarre, and it's very I think there are a couple of things that like with the bets, we should talk about the bets quickly.
Yeah.
But I've been meditating again, and that's something that is very like when you do that in the moment, those 10, 15 minutes feel so long. Feel almost like this like super stretched out sort of moment, and you're so like in the zone. And I guess people call it like awareness or whatever, mindfulness, just to continuously do that and remind yourself of like, it sounds so cliche, but like the moment and how important. Do we have to? Okay. Just all those little moments where you sit down and you're like, "Whoa, this is like right now is this like little moment of because what is a scary thought is being 90 years old and looking back." And you're like not having stretched out time as much as you possibly could have.
Yeah.
And I think you can stretch it out in ways where it's like changing things in your life. When you do change, like when we started working on the movie, that's a massive change. So it feels, because everything's different, suddenly it feels like way longer.
Yeah. Like the first week of editing.
Like you're getting more time.
The first week of editing feels like it occupies the same amount of time as the next 5 weeks of editing almost, because then you get into a routine, you're used to it.
Yeah.
Whereas the first week it's new.
Yeah.
Feels more.
It's almost like watching a movie is like that. It's like the beginning of the film
It's longer.
feels very long.
That's interesting.
Somewhere in the middle, you start to question, like, damn, I've been watching this for a long time.
And if it's good, you don't even think about it.
Fucking goes like that.
Yeah.
Like the last 30 minutes. Like, where the fuck did that go?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's such a like sad thought in a way, if that's how life is, that in the end it just kind of slips through your fingers a little bit because of this like relativity thing. A little bit this, time just starts to go so fast and the years just go by so quickly, and then you're wondering, how did I end up here so quickly? And well,
you can only really think about one of the three, as in past, present, or future at the same time. You should try and spend as much time in the present as possible. If you're thinking about the future or the past, time is passing without you knowing about it.
A little bit, right?
Yeah.
And the whole like that thing when you're a kid and you just think, I can't wait until I go to college and I'm finally going to be living by myself and I'll be able to. And then when you're in college, you're like, I can't wait until I start working and I finally don't have to go to these classes and have this. And then you start working, you're like, I can't wait until, I guess people say until I'm retired and I finally have the time to do the things that I want to. And then you're retired, you're like, I can't wait until. And it's like this constant, like, you can't wait for the, it's so hard to sit down and be like, no, but things are good right now.
You have to wait, so you better fucking enjoy right now.
But I do it all the time. I'm like falling asleep and I'm like, I can't wait to edit tomorrow. Instead of just enjoying that like restful, peaceful moment at night where I could be reading a book or like, and I'm already thinking about the next thing. And it's like, it's very hard to do.
That was a weak slap. Oh, so was that.
All those claps in Boris and Johan where I would do like really bad ones.
Yeah.
And you guys kept on saying, you're really going to be able to sync that? And I was like, yeah, no problem.
You couldn't?
I could.
Oh, you could? Nice. Good story.
I was like, good one, Taylor, from 6 months ago.
Yeah, like.
But yeah, that's something I've been thinking about.
It's okay to look forward to the future.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
No. But if you do it all the time.
But no, you can look forward to the future as much as you want, in my opinion. But if it starts to detract from enjoying where you are, or if it becomes something that you can live in to not experience the now as much.
Yeah.
Almost like purposefully.
Yeah.
Like right now is not as good as tomorrow will be, so I'll spend time thinking about tomorrow. That'll get me through today.
Yeah.
That's when it starts to become an issue.
Well, that's definitely bad. But like you said, I think it is hard to think about the future and the present at the same time.
It is. That's what it's like.
Mindset.
It's like the difference between thinking about tomorrow for so long that's what, like, when you're a kid and it's Christmas the next day. The day before Christmas feels like fucking forever.
Yeah.
Because all you're doing is waiting for it to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
But like a day 3 weeks ago went by like super quick.
Yeah.
Just like you wanna
But I do that all the time. I fill my time with stuff sometimes that I'm just like, I just need to get to this next point, you know? I haven't accounted for this kind of gap in the middle. So I'll just do whatever, just fill the time until I get to the next thing. And I think it's so hard, and it is like stressful to have that mindset a little bit, that you want to really live every minute of your life, because you get to a point where you're like, well, I also just want to like sit down on the couch and watch a movie and just not think for a second, right? Or like not have to keep all these things in my head constantly. But I've noticed that for myself. I do tend to do that, and then I look back and I'm like, you could have done something, you know. I don't even know what, but
it's just like whenever you reach the thing you're looking forward to, even if it's just tomorrow or it's a big goal, it's like
it's always more.
It's never that. I mean, it's never that great. It's never like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. It's like, now it's here.
Yeah.
And it's good. I'm enjoying it. But if you don't start working towards another thing, you're going to be very unhappy very quickly.
Right.
So it is all about setting a goal or waiting for, like, looking forward to something and then enjoying the process of getting there. And that's where it all is, is in the middle.
Right.
But you can't really have, we've talked about this before with goal setting. It's like you can't really have that enjoyment of the process without having something to look forward to, because that's what makes you work towards something. Otherwise, you're just walking around aimlessly. But by having a specific goal or something you look forward to, you are doing things to get there. And that is something that's very enjoyable.
But not everything you do is towards getting towards that goal necessarily, right?
I think in one way or another, everything we do is in some way linked to some, whether it be a specific, like, I want to run a marathon goal, or an abstract goal of having a better understanding of something.
Yeah.
It is all like, why do we do anything then?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I just want to be entertained. Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit more than just wanting to like mindlessly sit on the couch and watch something. If you want to watch something, like, why do you want to watch that and not something else? It's because you feel like that'll help you.
No, I literally
learn
think
something.
sometimes like I just don't want to think.
Well, that's another thing.
You know, if I could just turn off my head right now and just sit like for 2 hours, well, that I would pick to do that.
How often?
Because I have nothing. I don't know. Say like, it's definitely those days, like when I was sick on Sunday, that was a day where I was just like, and not like I want to escape my head or I want to get out of my thoughts. It's just I'm just going to sit on the couch all day. I'm going to watch 4 movies in a row. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm mindlessly sort of just, and it felt good. It felt like a really nice mental reset. You know, it felt really sort of like I came out of it on, no, I did that on Monday. So then yesterday was Tuesday. And I think on Tuesday I did some of the best editing I've done in a long time. And I think a little bit of that was this like, I just need to,
Right, but that's not thinking.
Ooh.
That's thinking about something else, which I think is very different.
Yeah.
Watching 4 films, I can just focus on I can be totally present while I'm watching those, not be thinking about anything else, really.
Yeah.
And then that's what gives you the reset. It's
Right.
very different from wanting to be completely blank in the mind for
I think
a
it's
certain
similar
amount
to
of time.
for similar reason. Like that's a little bit why I like to drink as well, because it takes me out of the mindset of thinking constantly about the next thing, and it lets me,
Yeah,
you know,
well,
with smoking weed as well, it really brings me into the moment that one night
Yeah.
that I'm going to be doing that. And then I do enjoy that to a certain extent. And then it does help me sort of reset for the next day, sort of like washes, you know, I know Joe Rogan and what's the boxer's name?
Which one?
The guy
Mike
with the
Tyson?
high voice. Mike Tyson. Oh, he's going to beat me up now. Joe Rogan and Mike Tyson talked about like DMT and stuff. And I find that very interesting as well, because they talked about, you know, he kind of explained it as like, you have all these folders on your desktop and then you do it and you kind of come out of it with one folder that says like past shit on it, you know, and everything's cleaned up into that one folder. And I guess taking the analogy further, he doesn't really take it there. All that shit's still there, but just that feeling of calmness of like, all these scattered thoughts that I have now in the morning, I wake up and I'm kind of back down to one thought, which is a bad thing as well, because that's how I forget to write people back and all these little extra things, right? But I try to wash them away a little bit, and then I wake up and I'm like, okay, I just got to get to Mazis, and then I'm focused on scene 73 of this thing that I want to,
right,
without the thoughts otherwise. And then the thing is, when you come home the night before, you're thinking about scene 73, and that's when you're like, well, it doesn't make sense to be thinking about it right now because there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
So that's when I'm like, I'll watch a movie, or I'll drink something, or I'll, do something that takes my mind off of it.
That's why it's very hard for people with addictions to stop.
Yeah, it's a bad habit.
It's because you suddenly don't have the thing that is allowing you to reset.
Right.
And now you have to come up with something different.
Right.
So
and you had talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. You have to replace it with something else that gives you the same sense of, because you become addicted to the reset.
Right.
And
it's either things in your head become so, like when you drink, for example, right? Mm-hmm. It's either things in your head become so chaotic that you just can't keep track of all those things, or everything focuses down to one. It's almost like the same thing, basically, right? Like two ends of the same spectrum. Like on the color hue, you have red and red on the, you kind of end up in the same place. And I think, you can definitely. Or I guess my question then is like, well, what do you do to reset your mind a little bit? I know you have a person at home, so that obviously helps that you guys can talk about other things and blah, blah, blah.
The running is a big thing.
The running,
we talked about that before.
Okay.
And I think you can also just work your way through it and actually do the resetting consciously by thinking through the things that are occupying, like if you have a bunch of like racing thoughts about specific things, like, I need to do this in this scene, I need to write this person back, like just writing it down.
Yeah.
It's such a practical, lame thing to do. But then it's like, now
don't need to think about it.
I've thought about it the one time, and I've recorded those thoughts. I don't have to try to remember them, because that's, I think, for a lot of people struggling to like fall asleep at night.
That's what I was going to get at.
Is you have thoughts and you almost don't want to stop thinking about it because you're afraid you're going to forget. At least subconsciously, I think. It's like, if you could just let go of the thought and return to it tomorrow when you can actually do something about it.
Yeah.
Writing it down allows you to kind of do that, because it's there. I don't need to have it at the forefront of my mind. It's like, I've placed it now somewhere physical. Now I can go to sleep, or I can shut off.
That would be nice. But I think in the situations where it's bad, like I don't have really problems sleeping, but I do have problems sleeping. Like when I was starting Boris and Johan, I had really bad problems sleeping.
Yeah, because you were thinking about everything you did.
And I could not stop it. I mean, it was something that was so out of my control. I think I've told you about like the weirdest situations where like scenes would just nag me and I could not get them out of my head. Not like a crazy person, but it'd be like, just like you're just constantly thinking about it, and even like writing it down, obviously. I mean, writing it down would be a 4-hour process of trying to write a scene.
But that would have probably made you be able to fall asleep afterwards.
Yeah, but you can't do that at 2 a.m.
Right, but then you stayed up for the whole night.
Finish the next scene. There's another scene that's coming right after. There's like a
that's
ending.
Just showing the magnitude of what you were undertaking, and that there are
But I think people experience that on smaller scales as well. And I've definitely had anxiety over things that I'm like, that's not fucking important. Why would this keep me up? This doesn't mean anything.
It's also like when you reach a thought that you don't understand.
Yeah.
That can be very weird because you don't know what to write down.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm using that kind of as a metaphor. Like, I don't know if you need to actually write stuff down, but like you can also probably get good at just thinking about it one time and kind of solving the issue mentally. But if you reach something that you don't know what to do about, or you don't even understand what the issue is, that's what can really be hard.
Yeah.
And like, then drinking or taking some drug, I don't think it would make it go away. It wouldn't like make you understand it and reset you for the next day. No. It would just put it off. And so it's like.
But the same way I would say, this podcast, that's why the same thing like alcohol, this podcast as well, those are, or, running, or I think the rock climbing helps a lot as well, like physical activity and stuff.
Yeah.
we do this podcast, and I feel very clear after it because I've gotten all my thoughts out. I don't know what they meant necessarily. I don't know why I wanted to talk about certain things, but that's the things I was thinking about that week. And it lets me kind of shelf them, even though we didn't come up with an answer for anything.
But verbalizing stuff is you coming up with a way of like verbalizing stuff is very difficult. That's why you speak to therapists. That's why that's
but I don't
something
think
that's so useful.
I don't think it's like I'll deal with that later.
No, because you're
just a nice that's done. Maybe I'll think about that again.
Right, but you've worked on it. You've gotten a little
bit.
like, if we're talking about something that's actually a big issue for one of us.
Yeah.
Bringing it from out of your head into the other person's head.
Yeah.
You've made some progress.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
So you feel like, okay, it's not this impossible thing to kind of figure out.
Yeah.
And that can be very rewarding, and you leave the podcast feeling like, okay.
Just clear-headed.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is like a little, depending on what we talk about in the podcast, it can be very therapeutic.
I think so. And I think since I came to before Copenhagen, I had this problem of like, I felt very foggy in my head for like a long time, like very long time. Like, I want to say like 8 or 9 months of just like, I would say things and I wouldn't really know what I'm saying, and I wouldn't really know what I'm thinking or why I'm doing something. And now this clarity has kind of washed over me, and maybe I'm trying to retroactively figure out where did that clarity come from, or was that just a phase, or was that,
It's probably many things.
Because a foggy mind sucks.
Yeah.
It really sucks. Because you feel, and you feel like
it's kind of scary because you don't know what you're thinking. Or maybe you don't know why you're thinking what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the foggy aspect.
Yeah.
Which is like, why am I thinking
this way?
It's
hard to explain.
Right, because you don't know what it is.
No.
And it is. It can be it can make you think that something...
It's like there's a little white noise playing in your head
is
the whole
wrong
time,
than actually is.
Yeah.
It's like, unless you can say what the problem is, or even better, say what the solution is.
Right.
It's like, it could be anything, which could almost be everything.
Right.
So it could be everything is wrong.
Right. And so that's going back to, specifically with weed now. So now I only have 2 days where, for those who don't know, we've done a bet, and I've kind of limited my consumption of alcohol and weed to 2 days. Fridays and Saturdays. And I think it's, especially with the weed, I'm smoking like, 1 joint a week basically. And it's beautiful. It's almost a thing of like limiting it to that amount kind of lets me use it in a very useful way that I don't think doesn't give me the same feeling as I had when I was like, when you smoke every day, it just kind of becomes like, it's just a habit again.
Yeah.
That's what you do at night, and that's how you relax.
Because then you're resetting, but then
constantly.
You're not.
You do need to be a little bit.
You don't have a time
scattered.
to actually do the thing that you're resetting for.
Yeah.
So that makes total sense.
Yeah. So I think that's been good.
So how is the bet going?
The bet's going good. I think the hard thing is, it's actually not hard at all.
Push-ups?
Easy.
Yeah.
I've gotten so I started with, I won't bore people. I've basically gotten now I'll do 4 sets of 25 every 2 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah.
You could do it every 2 minutes? You can be done in like 10 minutes with your whole workout?
I do 2 minutes with the push-ups included. So it's like 2:45.
Yeah, you'll do a set of 25, then you'll wait 2 minutes and do another set.
Yeah.
Fuck, maybe I should do it.
It goes quick. It's been like 2 weeks. Last night I was like, should I do more?
I used to do 25 push-ups first thing when I woke up.
25 push-ups, that's good.
Just to it's one of my
the old
waking up
my
tricks.
wasabi in the mouth thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally that. But now Arlo started to realize that I get up early, so I take him out first thing, so that kind of does it.
Okay.
My blood.
He gets out of bed in the morning.
Okay. Oh, he goes back to bed.
Yeah, so that's been good. The Duolingo's been great. It's kind of what I do in the morning to wake myself up. Although recently I've kind of been waking up very late. There he is. The reading, I did leave off 2.5 hours last week to the last day, which is fine. I'm trying to be better this week. And the meditation, like I said, has been good. What about your waking up at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching films in the morning. That's why I've seen all the films that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because I normally like before then, I maybe watched like one movie,
Yeah.
2 movies,
Yeah.
in like a couple of months.
Yeah.
Watched like TV shows on Netflix and stuff, like documentary series, but movies were just like they're too long. I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
So that's been good.
Yeah.
I think I don't think I'm getting enough sleep. I think that's an issue.
That's not good.
I think that's really actually been making me foggy,
Really?
like about certain things. I just feel like I can't understand certain things properly.
Yeah.
And so they're occupying too much space in my brain.
Uh-huh.
So like when I have had enough sleep, I'm like, oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I'm there again, kind of. So yeah, I'm conflicted about continuing it afterwards.
You had said you don't know.
Because I see the benefits, but then I also see when you start to kind of like, it's just, I don't really look forward to it very much. And then it's also like when you're on a different schedule than the person you live with.
Yeah.
Like sleep-wise.
It's no fun.
It's kind of hard for me to just go to bed
Yeah.
at 10.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
I end up going to bed at like 11 or 11:30.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not a lot.
No. You can get used to it, obviously, but yeah.
But getting used to it is different, and that's what I said in the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
I can get used to this.
Yeah.
Like, I can deal with it, and I have been.
Yeah.
I haven't been taking naps.
Yeah.
So obviously I can do it,
Yeah.
which is satisfying. Like, I could do it if I had to, like, oh, well, there's not enough time to sleep this week because of some insane thing.
Right,
Like, we're
right,
shooting,
right.
and it's like
Right.
we're only able to do it during these days. You know, you can kind of push through it. But in the long term, I don't know. I think the sleep is very important.
I think so too, and I think the whole idea of like,
Well, of course it's important. I'm not saying I think it is
but
important.
there's a big thing. Like in college, I was very into the idea of like doing that.
Hacking your sleep.
Yeah, where you kind of sleep like 20 minutes every 4 hours, and you end up only sleeping 2 hours a day. And it's like, I don't know. I think some people can get quite obsessed with like just time in the day. And I think you said it a lot where it's like, well, it's really just more about if you're going to spend time with your girlfriend, it's like, well, how do you spend that time?
Quality, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So if it's 20 minutes of good stuff,
I
rather
could
than an
definitely
hour
do
of just-
better,
Yeah.
which is what's making me definitely going to finish it, obviously.
Yeah. How many days do you have left?
I'm done on Monday.
Okay.
So Monday I wake up at 5 and then I'm done.
That's fun. I guess you won't be ordering cheese from the pizza man.
No fucking way.
No fucking way. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call a podcast.
Yes. We will see you next time on Burning Bow Business. Wait, what was the name of this episode again? Oh, yeah. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Little Rebel.